world chess without being ruthless. The players have dealt with a lot of pressure in their careers. I doubt they've played under such bright lights before, though. So we will see who is the first to be able to hold their nerve and get that full point.
Well, you said bright lights. There's a Team Aurora player right here. Yeah? You've got Jan Nepomniachtchi. I mean, he's got to be the big favorite here. It's going to be Jan Nepomniachtchi's speed versus Andrey Esipenko's opening preparation, which in the chess world he's really known for.
Look, Tanya, talk to me about what the players are going through right now. You have been on some of the biggest stages in the chess world. You know what it takes to be under pressure. This looks a little bit different to a lot of other chess events we would typically see.
And that's a great point, because it's going to be so much about the nerves, right? And the big stage players like Jan Nepomniachtchi, who's had that experience, 2 times World Championship challenger. He's won the candidates twice. He's been in the world elite for so many years, definitely better prepped to handle that pressure. But on the flip side, you got Andrey Esipenko, who sort of made his way through the last chance qualifiers. He's had that warm-up. You know, the engines are oiled up, and I wonder how that will play out, because we know that really matters, the form that the players bring on.
Form, preparation, they're both key. We saw Jan Nepomniachtchi preparing by drawing arrows on his board, trying to draw some bright lights there. Let's face it though, on paper, Esipenko starts as a big underdog. Historically, head-to-head, Nepomniachtchi has the edge. He's younger, he's rated lower. Sometimes though, that can be your superpower.
The big question, right? 10-0, no increment, no bonus time. Who's got the better mouse skills here?
I'm going to say Jan Nepomniachtchi has a better track record, both over the board and online in speed chess. But Esipenko, I think the fact that the pressure is off might help him.
And also, don't forget, he has been here for a couple of days playing in the last chance qualifiers already. He has shown us some brilliant chess and some excellent time management as well during the LCQ. So he's been on this stage already, maybe not on the big stage in the finals, but he's had a little bit of practice over the last couple of days, and that should mean a lot here.
Absolutely, and let's not forget, Andrey Esipenko has been a giant slayer. He's taken that Magnus Carlsen.
Yes.
He was above a 2,700 player, so you cannot write him off. You know, this might be potentially the first big upset of EWC, but a long way to go, the best of 2, and it's go time.
Here we go, E4, E5, let's get this underway. Roy Lopez to start the day off.
That's right, Jan Nepomniachtchi with the white pieces, playing very classical chess, very principled stuff. The Roy Lopez, the Spanish opening, is one of the favorite openings of all of the top players in world chess. In the meantime, Esipenko reacts by going for the Berlin Wall, the Berlin defense, known to be rock solid with black here.
It is the most solid response against the Spanish, against the Roy Lopez, and we see some trades in the center of the board, opening up a line. And look at that, Jan Nepomniachtchi with a reaction, a question mark appears. This is a strange decision by Esipenko.
Wow, big decision here. This is known to be bad for black.
That was quick.
Yeah, this is quick. The previous move, given a question mark, taking one of the pawns in the center. Black is up 2 pawns right now, but look at the black king. It's on an open line. It's unlikely to be able to castle to safety anytime soon. He's playing with fire here, Esipenko. He's playing super provocative chess.
And White is about to pick up one of those central pawns and the open diagonals and the lines that you pointed out. But look at Esipenko. This, again, smells and reeks of opening preparation. Something that we touched upon is one of his biggest forte. Now, with the 10+0 time format, if you can get your opponent to think early on, you know you're going to be up on the clock for those critical decisions. Is that part of Matt's strategy here for Esipenko?
Exactly, right? If you are able to go out of book early on, if you're able to get your opponent in the tank as far as using time is concerned, you can see that Jan hit down to under 9 minutes, 9.5 minutes for Esipenko. That is great from a long-term strategic point of view, but at the expense of a possible question mark, like David, where do you draw the line between suboptimal move and something that's actually brilliant and takes loads of time away from your opponent?
That's the trickiest thing in chess openings, knowing how much risk to take, how much reward potentially there is at the end of the line. Here we see a trade of knights. Esipenko continues to play immediately. Nepomniachtchi continues to react. He's trying to troll through his memory banks here to remember why this has a bad reputation for black, this opening. But he doesn't have too much time. We see Esipenko, though. He is with the higher heart rate. He's the more excited of the two.
So I'm scared here, Tanya, because obviously that rook on the line against the king, I'm just looking for the first opportunity for white to play f3. What's the black plan here?
Well, the bishop was attacked, so he first takes a timeout. White does to retreat the bishop and double down, even triple down on the central knight that you pointed out. And for now, Esipenko, a big decision. Will he consolidate the position of that knight by pushing one of his other central pawns? And this is absolutely nuts what we're seeing in this opening, the speed with which Esipenko is handling it, the offbeat moves that he's playing, getting his king out early on, heavy opening preparation, putting pressure on Jan Nepomniachtchi.
I think, David, this is the first time I've ever seen within the first 10 moves of a game an exclam being given to King F7. Like, I'm sure it does happen, and this isn't the first time it's happened, but this is rare.
This is rare, and we do see accuracy very high there at the bottom of your screens from Esipenko. Don't try this at home, guys and girls. That's my advice here, because this is super high-risk chess from Andrey Esipenko's black. Normally, traditional wisdom says be solid with black. A draw is a great result, but he does not want to back down. He wants to assert his dominance early, and he's doing well. Look at the clock situation. 2 minutes up with black. He's 1 pawn up for now, but that pawn will soon disappear. The white queen or rook will recapture it in the center. And yeah, this game is going to be a real fight.
Is that the plan, Tanya? Is it playing on the clock, or are there some positional nuances that maybe we should consider as well?
This is an absolute firework of a position. With the black king out in the open, the white pieces in the center of the board. A pawn has just been picked up by the knight. You can't capture that knight back because the queen is hanging. The white queen X-raying the black queen. There are checks coming up. Positional strategic elements are out of the window right now. You've got to focus on that safety of the king. Jan Nepomniachtchi looking for an attack, looking for an early blow. I will say one thing. Jan Nepomniachtchi, in his best form, can beat absolutely anyone super quickly. And I wonder if this might end up being a miniature.
He's done it to me plenty of times. He's great at those dynamic fights where it's all about going for the enemy king. Esipenko there, developing one of the black bishops. That's the first start. Here, he should be aiming to move the black rook from the top right corner out to f8, e8. Get that black king back to safety.
Yeah, castling would have been useful, but if you have to do it manually by hand and it takes you 3 moves to get there, so be it. This is a really interesting, really dynamic start to the day. I wasn't expecting to see this in game 1.
I love it. This is what we love about this format. And notice how this is the first time in the game that Andrey Esipenko, he takes a pause, which means that he's now out of his preparation. This is the position where game starts for him, and it's a tough one to handle. You have to decide which spot to put your rook on. Eventually, how do you have the time to get your king onto safety? Will white be able to strike in the center by pushing the pawn next to the queen 2 steps forward as well? So big ideas on the board. Jan Nepomniachtchi took his time, but handled the opening, surprise, perfectly.
Yeah, very decent play, very solid play from Jan Nepomniachtchi, recovering from that early shock. But for Esipenko, he needs to keep his time advantage. He was playing super quick. He landed the first blow, but now clock's leveling out, and he just needs to play solid. Black here is doing very well long term. Black has 2 bishops. When the board opens up, that is a great trump card to have up your sleeve. But I do fear if he plays too slowly, that will not come to pass.
And I also noticed, like you said, clocks are leveling out. Heart rate, far from leveling out. It was Esipenko with the higher heart rate. And now that we've got the 7-minute mark, you know, Jan will shift focus to his forte. He'll start pushing the pace. He knows he's out of that opening surprise element. He's going to now just make sure he gets the moves in quickly. He's already up on the clock. The piece is looking great. Material balance in place. Now, Esipenko starts with attacking the white queen, which falls back. It might be time to get the rooks off the board, get that black rook to the central open line. I have to say, Esipenko looks pretty chilled on the camera.
He looks pretty chilled, but from my experience of rapid chess, you can't afford to relax too much. Sometimes you go into a bit of a lull, you tank for a couple of minutes, and suddenly you realize, whoops, I've lost the thread of the game. Another quick couple of pawn moves there, both sides just solidifying their positions, but the key moment's still ahead.
I find it interesting that Esipenko brought the surprise here in game number 1, but was also the player to go back into the tank and end up with lower time than Nepomniachtchi. It's interesting that we've chosen to play several other moves, including h5, rather than bring the rook on h8 into the center of the board. So he's thinking more creatively. He's thinking, great, I've caught Jan with one surprise. Where's the next one? That must be what he's thinking right now.
Yeah, I love to see it. Just the ambition by the youngster Esipenko, pushing his pawns, pushing his opponent's pieces back. That's a retreat from the white knight, a retreat from Jan Nepomniachtchi. I'm expecting the black light squared bishop to come out now, hit the white queen on the f5 square. But yeah, it's just the attitude is spot on from Esipenko. I do worry about the clock situation though.
He's taking the fight to Jan in this game, you know, with his approach. Not something you need to do against a player like Nepomniachtchi, because you know that he'll always make that chaos. I will point out that Esipenko does have a long-term strategic advantage of the bishop pair.
Yes.
The positions are open. There are diagonals to play for here. So Esipenko's got something to push for. But the short-term element of the game, the king's safety, the open lines, it's going to be a fight between these two.
He's castled by hand. on the king side of the board. H5, harry the h-pawn. H4, H3 now as well. This is a statement of intent from Esipenko. He is not going into this fight lying down at all, and he's really giving Jan a lot of problems to think about, at the expense, though, of Andrey's clock.
Yeah, this is modern chess at its best. Shove those pawns forward, especially the h-pawns. That black pawn sitting right near the white king now, it's going to be like a bone in the throat. There's going to be so many tricks, tactics, checkmating ideas later. But of course, very much long-term. Jan tries to block up that flank meanwhile.
And if you're black, you're probably thinking about, I want more diagonals. I want to get to that square in front of the white king, throw open the position by pushing that d-pawn, get some trades in, get the bishops more active, maybe potentially clear up a square for your queen eventually to land on. And there it is on the board. d4 does happen. Once again, Esipenko is the one putting pressure with black against Jan Nepomniachtchi.
This is such a strange dynamic position here, David, but I'm going to let you take a look at c4 first, because we have had our first question mark for a little while. What's going on here with those raking bishops? This looks dangerous.
This looks very dangerous, and I'm just going to try and draw a couple of things that might happen, try to predict the future here, and it's the black queen trying to get in to the g2 square. The white king is in a mating net. That is why we see on the left of your boards the eval bar giving black a +1 advantage. There's a clear route actually. The black queen wants to slide across to the light square diagonal and drop in with a checkmate.
And that's a big threat being set up on those squares right in front of the white king. I mean, Jan Nepomniachtchi, he is in real trouble in this position. I wonder how much this is going to be about trying to flag Esipenko, who's at about a 4.5-minute mark here. What white is trying to set up is to block that diagonal that David was earlier pointing out, with the f-pawn moving one step forward, making sure there's no kiss of death checkmate once the queen lands on g2. It's all about the light squares. It's all about the long diagonal.
Now, if white is able to do that, we have to talk about not really many pawns in front of the black king, right? King safety here doesn't look that great for black, but at the same time, if you're playing with the white pieces, where's the breakthrough? Where are you trying to start a mating attack of your own? Where should we be looking, David?
Yeah, so the white queen is trying to jump in. There's a key check that black has to watch out for. You have to be ready to block or deal with that just to put a move on the board. What Esipenko wants to do is to bring his own queen across, to slide it across and drop in with a checkmate. Watch out for this one later. This is going to be the key idea in the position, but for now, it can be dealt with by a block from the white pawn. So it's all about the queen trying to get in and white trying to deal with that.
And that h3 pawn, at the time, you're able to sort of blockade the attack, but realistically, it is just a long-term liability for white's king safety as well, Tanya. So there's plenty of dynamicism going on here.
It's an asset for right now, but in any endgame, it could very much come under fire. Like you said, could be the big weakness. Now, we see the queens coming off the board. That has to be a relief for the player playing with the white pieces. Like I said, endgames, that h-pawn, which is advanced up, can be a liability. The g-pawn moving forward, disconnecting the bishop from that pawn, then get your king closer to that black pawn, just win it. And that could be part of the strategy. But look at this. Esipenko, always aggressive. He's about to get the other rook into the game.
Now, you mentioned the E word, endgame. I do have to talk about one thing in the position here. The pawn on d4 for black is a passed pawn. At what point do we start getting quite excited about it?
I think soon. Esipenko, he's bobbing up and down in his chair. We saw his screen a second ago. Now we see Jan Nepomniachtchi's screen. Esipenko had pre-moved to recapture that black rook, which might be taken on the next go. He'd pre-moved d takes e3, that beautiful black passed pawn in the center, getting closer to promotion, and I think he's hoping to maybe, if all the rooks come off, that passed pawn will paralyze the white knight and or the white king. In the meantime, Jan here desperately seeking exchanges. The knight retreating, given a question mark, but begging now for the rooks to come off.
And they do come off. At least one pair of rooks come off the board, and the bar says that that might not be the best way, but a practical decision here. I think for Jan Nepomniachtchi, it's Esipenko's clock. That's his best friend. A pawn attacked on the board by the bishop, defended now by the knight. The king moves forward. The king is the most important piece. And look at this. White is setting up, trying to get to that h3 pawn, but it's a tough ask.
It's a tough ask. The question here is whether Esipenko can make progress, whether he can break through. The clock situation, he's down under 3 minutes. Jan Nepomniachtchi just under 5, so 2-minute difference here. But if the game continues, if there's no breakthrough, the clock is going to be the biggest factor. It looks like what we call a fortress in chess, where there's just no breakthrough for black.
And a potential idea as well that doesn't work anymore is if white was able to play g4, you might be able to get the king up and attack the pawn on h3, but you can't do that. There's no way through.
And the players are repeating the position here. The Kings are dancing back and forth. If the position repeats 3 times, if Esipenko moves his king across back to f5, the game will be declared a draw.
And it does. There it is. We've got our first result of the Esports World Cup.
So, big question here for both of you, I suppose. How much is Jan Nepomniachtchi breathing a sigh of relief at the end of that game?
He's definitely the happier of these two players. I mean, coming on with the white pieces, this is not what you're expecting. Jan was very aware that the opening Esipenko started with was a dubious one. But you don't have so much time to recollect your opening preparation, what is the right way forward. And I think Esipenko, some great practical decisions there, putting the pressure on, getting the advantage. Jan managed to get out, but I think he's definitely the more relieved of these two.
And look, David, I think pretty much everyone going into this match said, right, pressure is on Esipenko because Jan has the experience. He's been in the World Championship match twice. He is absolutely the player to beat here, but let's be honest and let's call it what it is. Esipenko was the player on the front foot for most of that game.
Yeah, he looked like the stronger player. He was better prepared in the opening Esipenko. He applied the pressure, the threats in the middle game. But ultimately, in the end game, he didn't have time to push. Even the final position, he would have played on if the clocks were level. But in the end, it was just that fear, that ghost of being flagged, ultimately, that caused him to pull the brake.
So we are about to start game number 2. But before we do, Tanya, if you had to pick one player to say this is what you do differently in game 2, is there anything obvious that jumps to mind?
That's a really tough one. I'm so impressed with the way Esipenko played at the start of this game. What we're seeing is the very end of the game, which was decided in a draw with a 3-4 repetition right here. What do you do differently? I think for Esipenko, he needs to do exactly what he did in this game. You know, put the pressure early on. We spoke about his opening preparation, get that in. And I'm sure he's got some ideas. He starts with the white pieces. We said it, Jan Nepomniachtchi, a huge favorite in this match. I wonder if the odds have just shifted now after what we saw in game 1.
Well, let's turn that around a little bit. If Esipenko needs to keep doing what he's doing in game number 2, what went wrong for Jan? Or if nothing went wrong for Jan, what does he need to tweak?
Yeah, I think it was the opening, it was the trend for Jan Nepomniachtchi. He got hit by an opening surprise. He ended up playing it solid. He dealt with it relatively well, but he was always on the back foot. For Jan, as long as he equalizes out of the opening, as long as he feels like he's playing from a level playing field, maybe with a bit more time on the clock, Jan was clearly the faster player there. I think that's going to be his main weapon.
I love that on the screen there it was like, hey, do you want to go to game review? Coach will tell you what happened there going into the end game. The players, of course, just adjusting their sound settings. I believe they have like a choice of what music they can listen to and sort of get themselves in the zone. They've also got some white noise being played as well, so they cannot hear us, they cannot hear the studio audience. It's a very, very controlled environment here. And now is the case of resetting for game number 2. Tanya, you mentioned Esipenko, keep doing what you're doing, but he must be getting, the confidence must be building within him right now.
100%, and the warm-ups already happened, right? The first games in, the nerves are settled, and I will point out when we speak about tension, about pressure, Jan Nepomniachtchi's got to be feeling more of that. He's going to try to avoid any kind of an underdog ambush in the very first round of the EWC here. For Andrey Esipenko, he can just go all out. He knows it worked the first round around. With the white pieces, he's got a second chance here. I wonder if for Jan Nepomniachtchi, he feels his best shot might be the Armageddon.
Yeah, the Armageddon would be fascinating. This clash of generations, it's all about the speed, of course, if we get there.
Nothing's granted.
Nothing is granted, exactly. And for Esipenko, maybe he feels that this next game is his chance. With the white pieces, with level time, maybe this is where he's going to push.
We had at least one opportunity for both players to go into the tank in game number 1. We started off with Esipenko having a significant time lead, and all of a sudden it disappeared. He went into the tank himself. Are we going to see another surprise, maybe this time from Jan, where Esipenko is the one sent into the tank first?
In this time format, David, I want to believe that that is the key element. Who gets the first surprise, the first shocker in, sort of forcing your opponent into those early think tanks so that there is little time for the critical decisions later. That's a big ask, a tough one against this man, against Jan Nepomniachtchi, the speediest of them all. He is an absolute speed demon, but I think, like you said, with the white pieces, I'd bet on Esipenko getting the second surprise of the day.
Yeah, it's a bold strategy surprising the opponent because all of the best lines, all of the most reputable lines, they are known in the opening stage. So often to surprise the opponent, you need to play something a bit suspicious, a bit dodgy, maybe not fully correct. And yeah, it's clear that Esipenko, he feels that that is his best chance here. For Jan, he's much more principled in the opening, traditionally.
D4 for game number 2. A little bit more chilled out, but
it's there. It's already on the board.
It is.
Jabava London is what we call it, and I think this also has to be a bit of surprise for Jan Nepomniachtchi.
Yeah, you would think so. Jan Nepomniachtchi, he is a very kind of predictable player in the opening. He has a very fixed set repertoire that he relies on, has brought him so much success for the last decade. But maybe he wasn't expecting this one, although the moves have flown through very quickly here.
So there's still plenty to come here out of the opening, but break down the psychology for me in the opening, Tanya, because in the last game we had a potential question mark very early on. Now we're getting to something that is relatively well understood theoretically. How aggressive or how positional would you say this opening is?
I mean, look at the H-pawn. It's already up the board. So I think when we speak of Alpha Zero chess, I think for Andrey Esipenko, he's doing just that. He is trying to get the aggressive approach. When you have the Jabava London, where you place the knight in front of the pawn on the queen side, get your bishop out early. We're looking at tactical ideas. And I think Esipenko is again showing he's ready for it. It's not just the H-pawn, but the G-pawn going up as well. Jan Nepomniachtchi, though, looks like he's more ready for this one.
Yeah, big threat, though, here on the board. Queen takes pawn. How is Andrey Esipenko going to deal with this? Normally, an early queen sortie is fraught with danger. You don't necessarily want to take too much risk. We often call this pawn that the black queen is staring down at on b2 a poisoned pawn. But here, I think you can safely grab it. So here, Andrey must be taking a timeout, must be maybe moving his rook across to b1.
Look, the H-pawn is possibly going to be the theme of the day if we keep seeing stuff like this. H4, G4 very early on for Andrey Esipenko. With the white pieces, he was pushing the H-pawn with black. He's pushing the H-pawn with white. It's very clear where his intentions lie. And very early on, showing that he is absolutely fine from a nerves point of view.
Well, both players are showing just that, right? Jan Nepomniachtchi matching the speed as well on this one. It's Esipenko who's behind on the clock already. Jan doing Jan things. He's putting the pace, he's putting the pressure. I'm amazed with just the speed with which Jan's handled the Jabava London in this one. It's almost like he's played it out flawlessly with the black pieces, getting the queen out, blocking the king side, making sure there are no advances there. Also gets a stronghold in the center with the capture on e4.
That is incredible speed. Jan Nepomniachtchi, he's barely used 15 seconds to get to this point. We're already 10 moves in what is quite an unorthodox opening here. There was a pawn hanging in the center of the board, but Esipenko was bracing for impact. Black here, Jan Nepomniachtchi is trying to blow open the center. If that happens, white's pieces on the back rank here, on the bottom row, do not look ready.
A little bit of tension there with the pawn structure in the center. You had the doubled pawns on e4 and e5 before, but instant take. It looks like the tension's being resolved relatively quickly. You see lots of chess openings, Tanya, where there's loads and loads of tension building up, building up. This doesn't look like it's one of those.
The tension's all over the place here right now. It's not building up, it's already exploded, right?
Yeah.
You've got these open lines, you've got these two pawns which are at the center, and both are targets right now. In fact, white could potentially pick up black's pawn. Bishop takes pawn is a possibility, but that's playing with fire. Would have opened up the rook line towards the white king. A safety first approach, getting the castle in. Black defends the pawn, white doubles down on it. But there are potential trades. Black could capture the pawn at the center, get the queens off the board, and I wonder if this is headed towards an endgame. And because of the pawn formation on the right side, more space for white might be better for white.
Yeah, let's talk about that briefly. What should we be looking at earlier in the game, David, to give us an idea of whether white or black would be playing for a win in the endgame?
Yeah, it looks fantastic for white. Here, Jan Nepomniachtchi making a bit of a face on the camera. Maybe we just highlight a few key ideas. Firstly, there's a huge threat on the board. There's a game-winning threat that white wants to land. It's all about the white knight. This is on the right board here, the analysis board. The white knight is threatening to jump forward. If black does nothing, the knight jumps forward, hits the black queen, and next move jumps in with a devastating fork, double attack on the black rooks. This has to be prevented. As Tanya mentioned, we could see the board clear, we could see everything start to disappear, but at the very end, it's all about the power of these white bishops. Bishop's fantastic. Knight hopping into enemy lines here. Looks beautiful for Andrey Esipenko.
And then I guess with the queens off the board, Tanya, those early pawn shoves that mean we have h4 and g5 pawns on the board, it's not really a huge weakness at the moment. It's not like there are loads of pieces that black can use to jump in to attack that pawn chain. So we're feeling okay about that in the endgame for white.
100%. It in fact takes away some key squares from black, and that again becomes a huge asset for white to gain that space. There are no such weaknesses to talk of. Jan Nepomniachtchi has all the reasons in the world to be very happy with his opening play. He's also kept the pace on the clock. Now a little on the 8 8 minutes, and I think the line that David was looking at, it's going to appear on the board. The queens will potentially disappear. The central pawn will be captured, and it will be White's piece activity that will give Jan the edge.
Yeah, it looks fantastic for White, and it looks like the queens will be disappearing. White's hand is not forced. There are options right now, but it does look like Jan on the camera reacting a bit to what is about to happen.
So now, a lot of the time, we keep thinking, once the queens are off, traditional school of thought is once the queens are off, game can sort of move towards an inevitable draw. But it looks like the pieces are sufficiently dynamic here. You guys mentioned the pair of bishops. There's still plenty going on the board that makes things just that little bit more interesting, just that little bit more dynamic. And even without the queens, there's still so much play left.
Yeah, there's still most of the pieces on the board. I'll call it a queenless middle game, just as much as it is an endgame. And it does look like momentum is going to be the biggest thing. For Esipenko, though, he needs to keep up to speed on the clock. His position is fantastic for now.
Incredible position, but this is the storyline we saw in that game one, right? Esipenko getting that opening edge, being the one on the front foot, playing for the win, but not having enough time in the end game to convert. Right now, 6 minutes, a beautiful position for the white pieces. The rooks coming to the center of the board, the knight jumping to some key squares in Jan Nepomniachtchi's camp with big threats. Compare the two bishops that Esipenko has to Jan's undeveloped pieces on the first rank, and it's easy to say, once again, it's advantage Esipenko.
Yeah, that white knight, this variation we predicted has come to pass, and that knight is the MVP right now. The white knight is creating some big, big threats. Jan Nepomniachtchi slowing down. He's a great defender, we should mention Jan Nepomniachtchi, but he'll have to show all of his skills here, even more than in the previous game.
So this is, I guess, one of the classic techniques people use in chess to compare what's going on. You look at what the pieces look like, right? Both sides have a pair of bishops and the knight. You're comparing the activity and going, is my knight better than my opponent's knight? Are my bishops better than my opponent's bishops? And it just feels like, from a cohesion point of view, black's causing white some problems, but white's pieces are so beautifully placed. Like, how can you deal with this? How do you resolve this?
It's a tough ask, and the problem child for black in this position is the rook on a8 at the corner of the board, which can eventually come into attack, combining the knight with the dark squared bishop. There are so many threats, so many hanging pieces, so many tempos that the white knight can jump with, and all these ideas extremely tempting for Andrey Esipenko. And David, this is the final 10-0 game. You know, whoever wins this, if there's a decisive result, they go on in the winner's bracket.
Yeah, this is very, very important. Jan here with a bit of a frown, sipping some water, or at least trying to, struggling to open his bottle there. Normally that's a power move. You try to show your confidence. He's looking very relaxed, but I think internally he knows. We see the heart rates there. Jan's heart rate much higher than his opponent's. He knows he's in a bit of trouble if Esipenko finds the best moves. You can kick away the black pieces here, but you have to be accurate about the move order.
It depends on how you open the bottle, right? If your hand is shaking and you just about manage to get there, it takes you 3 or 4 goes, that sends one message. You flip it open, the lid bounces 3 meters off the stage. You don't care, you take a swig, and you have a wry smile on your face. That's all good.
I'll tell you one thing, we've seen Jan Nepomniachtchi with all those hand movements as World Championship matches, struggling to open those water bottles. Right now, he looked more confident. I wonder if the clock is also the reason for that. Now, finally, the rook trying to come into the game, getting the bishop out of the way. You are giving up a pawn. The knight could jump and have taken that b7 pawn, but first, Esipenko protects his own queen side.
So it felt like a couple of moves ago, black might have been, I don't want to say in a little bit more trouble than he is now, but certainly now playing with a bit more confidence. Did Esipenko lose the thread of the attack somewhere? Did something run out of steam? What happened?
Yeah, I think Esipenko, he tried to hedge his bets a bit. He has won a pawn. We should mention white is now up a pawn. The light squared bishop grabbed a pawn on b7. So he's kind of transformed his advantage. Maybe he would have maxed out his advantage by keeping the knights on the board. That white knight was so dominant that actually winning this pawn probably wasn't the kind of #1 priority. But this position, it still should be white who's the only side who can win. I do worry about the clock here, Tanya.
It's an extra pawn for white, but we spoke about piece activity early on. And now look at Jan Nepomniachtchi. His pieces, they were the ones on the back foot, undeveloped, but it's the rook that's infiltrated on the first rank, looking at putting some threats on that white rook with the bishop eventually sliding to a square where it can attack it. A lot of piece harmony here for Jan. Yes, he's on the defense, but I think he believes he's got enough resources to keep the game in balance.
So, Short question, possibly difficult answer. White, piece activity, extra pawn. But what's the breakthrough we're looking for here? Like, what should we be looking out for at home?
That's the million-dollar question. And
250,000 here. But
50,000, yeah, exactly. But you need a pass pawn. It's that simple. You need to push one of your pawns forward, break through enemy lines, make a new queen. But that's kind of a distant dream. So it's micro plans. First here, Esipenko, this move given a question mark, but logical. He wants to trade off dark squared bishops. Later, he might want to trade off light squared bishops, maybe the rooks as well. And having an extra pawn is his goal long term.
But bishop f2 looks like a very sensible move. Given a question mark here, what could white have done instead, Tanya?
And like you said, traditional chess wisdom, right? Get the pieces off the board if you're up pawn. Now imagine if all the pieces are off, it's a pure king and pawn ending. Esipenko wins, goes ahead in the upper bracket just to keep the game going. He makes the most human moves. You know, he declined a repetition early on that was offered by Jan Nepomniachtchi a few moves ago. And I feel he's done everything, which is practically correct. Got the king from the edge of the board towards the center. He's still, from a practical perspective, keeps winning chances alive. Now the rook looking at coming in from the 6th rank. But Jan Nepomniachtchi gets his rook on the attack.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what could Esipenko have done instead as an idea, because I'm looking at piece activity now and I'm going, you know what? Black's piece activity looks pretty darn good here with that rook being an absolute menace on the back rack. So has something gone wrong here?
I think it has, and it's mainly just great defense by Nepomniachtchi. I don't want to take anything away from Esipenko, who's done all the right things. He's grabbed a pawn, super active pieces earlier, but it is that black rook, the pest, that is saving black in this position. I just feel that Esipenko, he's been trading too many pieces. Previous game, had the advantage, traded queens, it was a draw. This game, had the advantage, traded pieces, it's fizzling towards a draw again.
And I'm going to point out, for Jan Nepomniachtchi, the MVP, the most valued piece is indeed that rook, which is going to shuffle around from one side to another, just attacking those two pawns, the H and the A2 pawn. That's what he's trying to do. Jan Nepomniachtchi just does not care. He literally does not care right now as he's putting the pressure on for Esipenko. He's gone in with a check.
Apparently there's just one move here that will save black. He has to bring his king back to the dark square, to e7. There we go. He finds the best move, Jan Nepomniachtchi. That is to stop the white king infiltrating, but there we go. Esipenko, he's making his move now. This is a bit of a gamble. He's given up his extra pawn. Black has a very powerful passed H pawn. But he's going for checkmate against the black king.
So this is one of those interesting positions where the eval bar might not tell us half the story here, Tanya, because both sides now have some really scary moves that they can be playing against each other.
Less than half the story by the eval bar. Practically, this is a 3-result game. And black has only one move to keep the balance, David, and it's a tough one.
This is so difficult. The black king has 3 possible retreats. The black king's in check, but you actually have to block with your bishop. The only move to save the game, if you go back with the black king, the white king steps forward and you're going to be courting some checkmating nets.
But what makes it hard to make that move is that you're self-pinning. Self-pinning for glory was Magnus Carlsen's tweet in the Dingler and World Championship match against Jan Nepomniachtchi. He finds it. Bishop d7 on the board. Incredible resourcefulness there by Jan.
So is this a case where black just has to soak up the pressure and maybe play the rook to d1, David, rather than allow the king to get further back? Is that the whole point here?
Yep. Defending that black... Ooh, he gives a check. I was going to say defending that black bishop was the #1 order of priority. The reason chasing the white king back wasn't actually best is because now the white king is near enough to stop the black h-pawn from running forward. That black h-pawn is the source of counterplay. White's gone a pawn up again after that trade of bishops. White now is 2-0 up in terms of pass pawns on the queen side. Long term should be winning, barring any tricks. But Jan here trying to slow him down.
And those are two connected passes, right? The most dangerous of the kind in a rook pawn ending for white that Andrey Esipenko has. If anyone's playing for a win here, it's white. The king does a beautiful job of defending the h-pawn from moving up the board. And meanwhile, your rook is assisting the 2 other pawns. I see the bar also agrees with this. I think this is big trouble for Jan.
That was a huge blunder, a huge mistake from Jan Nepomniachtchi. He could have used the black rook to go behind before the white pawn started advancing, just paralyze those pawns. White would not have been able to touch anything. Now, white's construction on that left flank, on the queen side, it's easy. You can just push your pawns, push your rook. It's unstoppable.
Well, in short, white's king is playing an active role in defending while still able to push his passed pawns. Black's king is sort of neither doing one or the other at the moment.
He's trying to create some chaos on the other side, Jan is, but it's too slow. And David's plan, we're seeing that being played out. Push the pawn, give a check, push the pawn, give a check. And that's how this will play out. He's going to bring the rook back exactly where it came from and continue with the idea of advancing. But obviously, you have to be just a little bit careful. 2 minutes on the clock for Andrey Esipenko. Is that going to be enough to convert this?
Oh, the clock is his biggest hurdle right now. Esipenko, he waits with his king. Very logical. The white king is just biding its time. Now you can start checking with the white rook, but it's a bit of a race. The black is going to create some counterplay against the white king. No fully safe square to hide it on, but pushing your pawns, getting your pawns forward, that is what he wants to do, Esipenko. He gives a check first. Those pawns are moving. And wow, the race begins.
It begins, and it's the toughest one to handle with little time on the clock, no increment. And look at that, Jan, he keeps the pace, he keeps the pressure on the clock, he brings the king forward, now threatening some checks to win a pawn, and there's just one move.
Oh.
There's just one move that white has, and he doesn't find it. He messes it up.
He had to give a check with the white rook, and in return, Jan Nepomniachtchi blunders. He could have given a check with his own rook, and there was counterplay. Instead, he's giving away one of his pride and joys here. His passed pawn, that pawn has to be taken. You cannot let it survive much longer. Esipenko does get it off the board, and a check. This was his plan. Again, only one winning move here for Andrey Esipenko.
He needs to find the right square for the king, and he does it. He moves the king forward. It was the right one, and now it's going to be the 2 pawns on the left side of the board.
This is winning. Still, he needs to show accuracy. He moves his king across, but why that square? He could have chosen a square that blocked the advance of the white pawn, and now it's pawns versus rook. We're going to see a queen versus rook. Those 2 pawns are unstoppable. One of them will become a queen. This is going to be a crazy race against the clock now. Under 1 minute to win what is a very difficult position to convert.
This is a bullet ballet, and if anyone's playing for a win, it's white with the queen. He comes in with a check. The idea is to surround the black king with your own queen and king. Try to win that rook, but 47 seconds on the clock. It's still inholdable territory for Jan Nepomniachtchi.
What do we think? Is he going to be in time, Esipenko, to win this queen versus rook advantage?
It's such a tough call, but I want to say, look at him on the screen. He's locked in, he's zoned into it. And with just the construction of the pieces, how close they are to the black king, David, if I had to take a call, I think he gets the job done.
He shook his head there, Esipenko. He's driven the black king away from the corner into the center. Now it's slightly harder to get that winning advantage, to win that black rook. But you can see how nervous he is, shifting up and down in his chair now, Esipenko. He knows he's so close.
Reaching the 30-second mark, and you can see it on him. Jan Nepomniachtchi, his only hope, keep playing fast, keep playing as quickly as possible. There are stalemating ideas that black wants to set up as well, but with the king at the center of the board, that's not going to be possible. Wow, for Esipenko now, 30 seconds. Gives a check, the king needs to stay connected to the black rook.
It does. Shake of the head from Jan Nepomniachtchi this time, but he's eating away at Esipenko's clock. The white queen dropping back. Now the black rook is going to give a check, and no, it doesn't. Apparently it's checkmate in a few moves if white finds the right path.
And that's because the black king has been cornered to the flank of the board. But white has to be precise with the checks that are chosen. Does Esipenko, does he have it at the back of his hand how this is done with 25 seconds?
Key moment, the black king and rook are so separated now that there might be tricks, double attacks to win them. Jan Nepomniachtchi has to invest some of his time to find the best defense, to keep this game going as long as possible.
And the more time Jan takes, the more time Andrey Esipenko has to figure out those queen dances, those queen maneuvers on the board. He gives a check.
Oh, he's getting closer though. That black king's in the corner. He's so close now. The black rook has no safe squares to go to. It's going to have to divorce itself from that black king. This spells danger.
And with the speed with which Esipenko is playing, it almost feels like he's figured it out. Notice how there are no big checks that black could have given. White coming in closer with that death trap on the black king and the rook.
Yeah, and this is a position that has appeared in so many chess books throughout history. It is totally winning now. You can win the black rook by force. Computer says mate in 4. Is he going to find it? It's checkmate. If he brings his queen up to the top of the board, he finds a different path. He's struggling here, Esipenko. The nerves are getting to him.
It's the clock against Andrey Esipenko right now. 13 seconds, so close yet so far.
Oh, he had a forced win. If only he had a few seconds more. Now, Nepomniachtchi pauses. He's going to try and make things as complicated as possible. He's going to try and run away with the black rook or the black king now. He might be losing his rook, though. I don't see any safe moves here for Nepomniachtchi.
It's so difficult to make a choice, and maybe there are no good ones, and maybe that's exactly what's dawned on Jan Nepomniachtchi right now.
Checkmate is threatened in one move. We should mention the White Queen coming back down to D1. It's starting square. That would be very appropriate as an end to this game. The White Queen, the MVP. Nepomniachtchi sitting back. It looks like he's about to resign. He's going to give up. Okay, a check, and now the Black Rook falls.
And 10 seconds has to be enough for a queen and king versus king. This is about to end in checkmate. 9 seconds is an eternity at this level to finish this off.
Esipenko's been practicing this since he was born. This is checkmate next move, and Esipenko takes the win.
And Andrey Esipenko takes down Jan Nepomniachtchi in this incredibly tense first best of two. Look, game number one, tense draw. Esipenko was on the front foot, but that game ended in a draw. Same story in game number two with the white pieces. Esipenko trying to break through, and it took until his third or fourth attempt to see the first cracks appear in the armor of Nepomniachtchi, and that is an upset to start off the Esports World Cup.
Wow, who would have thought it? Our experts in the studio were saying Nepomniachtchi was a favorite on paper. He was a huge favorite, but here are the closing stages as Esipenko found such a smooth conversion under clock pressure, Tanya, but he never looked like he was going to let it slip.
Brilliant stuff this was. You know, if you love an underdog story, then this game was the narrative that one had to follow at the Esports World Cup. What a banging start by Andrey Esipenko, the last-minute substitute to Vladimir Fedoseev, coming in as the big underdog with everything to prove, trying to show the world that he does belong, and he does belong, taking down Jan Nepomniachtchi, not just on the scoreline, putting the pressure in that first game, getting it done in the second one. That right there is the man of the moment.
Oh, a winning start for Andrey Esipenko and a winning start for Virtus Pro. Let's go ahead and hear what our shredded nerves and his calm composure has to say about pulling through in that match.
Well, Andrey managed to get the first win of the day after it. I want to say a very, very long game towards the end, coming down to the last seconds, but congrats.